From the moment the game starts, Dark Souls, developed by FromSoftware, has already established its atmosphere. A rat scurries across your screen as the camera zooms slowly into a locked door in an asylum. It is a bleak world coming to its end. I've always wondered how a world like this one could have so many striking and memorable locations. If you listen to the sounds of this world, you will see why these areas are so compelling. When I first played Dark Souls, I was not expecting much in the way of environmental design. If I'm telling the truth, the only reason I wanted to play it was because I heard it was hard. I'd be lying if I said I enjoyed it at first, and I stopped playing after dying too much and vowed never to return to the game. I ended up returning to the game, this time with a chip on my shoulder and a promise that I would overcome any challenge that came my way. And I did. But when I beat the game, I had stopped paying attention to the difficulty. I stopped counting my losses and wins. The game had shown me something profound. It had shown me a world that was so captivating that it felt like I could reach out and touch it. I could feel the dirt on my armor just as my character had. When I started researching for this project, I became aware of two things. The immense amount of effort, thought, and care that had gone into the sound design of this game, and the frightening lack of attention I had paid to it. The amount of intentionality behind each decision in the soundscape was so seamlessly implemented that I had simply ceased to notice it. I wanted to know how they achieved this. In Dark Souls, audio is used to complement and enrich its environments. This is done through the use of adaptive, diegetic, and informational audio, as well as silence, ambience, and music. All of these elements beautifully mix together to create soundscapes which allow the sound to supplement and enhance these environments. I will be drawing on sources such as Karen Collins' Game Sound, Aaron Oldenburg's Sonic Mechanics, and R. Murray Schafer's The Soundscape, Our Sonic Environment and the Tuning of the World. In particular, I'm going to be analyzing the soundscapes of Dark Souls through the definition that Schafer defines for his soundscape. By doing this, it will become clear what the intentions and effects of the sound design are. The world of Dark Souls, Lordran, is dripping with environmental storytelling. Whether it be the crumbling ruins found in the Darkroot Garden or the elegant castles found in Anor Londo, the game is always communicating its history through the environment and atmosphere. It uses audio in a similar way. We are going to listen to several areas of the game world, but before we do, I would like to define some terms. R. Murray Schafer's The Soundscape gives instructions on how to analyze a soundscape and what to be listening for. In this, he describes keynotes and sound marks. Schafer describes keynotes of his soundscape as being created by its geography and climate: water, wind, forest, plains, birds, insects, and animals. Keynotes are essentially the background sound which fills out the environment, acting like a sonic pad. Sound marks are on the other end of the required attention spectrum. The term sound mark is derived from landmark and refers to a community sound which is unique or possesses qualities which make it specially regarded or noticed by the people in that community. Keynotes, and especially sound marks, are used extensively within the environmental design of Lordran. Through this use of sound design, FromSoftware is able to create atmospheres which are unique, memorable, and narrative. I remember finding this area for the first time and being absolutely floored. It has a feeling which is like nothing else I have ever experienced. The first sound that will grab your attention is the twinkling of the crystals. The twinkling is accompanied by sparkly falling dust. These are very high frequencies which seem to be sounding somewhat sporadically, so the ear is drawn to them. This is designed on purpose, as the dust and by proxy its sound are actually revealing a hidden path which you must take. Because of this design choice, the developers have not only placed emphasis on this sound, but have made it a necessary component to overcome this area. The sound of the falling crystal dust also serves as the sound mark for this area and deepens the mythos of Lordran. What exactly is this dust? Why does it make a sound? Through one simple sound, the game has created a whole world for your mind to spiral down. The keynotes in this area serve to enrich the environment by using techniques to make the cavern seem, for lack of a better term, cavernous. Aaron Oldenburg states in his essay, "There are audio cues to give players an immediate sense of an overall environment. An echo can read as a cavernous indoor area. Rain can give away the presence of large structures and hint at the materials." Using reverb and echoes is exactly what is being used in the Crystal Caves. You can hear the long reverb time on the tail of the sparkling sounds. A low droning wind sound resonates throughout the cavern, which gives the area an unsettling yet calm atmosphere. It seems to ebb and flow, having moments of stillness, only to build up in a faint low roar. If you listen closely, you can hear whispers which do not have any visible source. Acousmatic sounds, which are sounds removed from a source, like these, help to build the atmosphere. Oldenburg says, acousmatic sounds play a particularly large role in mainstream horror games, sparking the imagination and fear of unseen presences, or by disturbing the player with a sense of the uncanny through sounds that do not match their assumptions about the environment. While we are not strictly dealing with a horror game, the methods of using imagination and unseen presence to build an environment are most definitely being used here. If you have a keen ear, you may have noticed the lack of music while making your way through Lordran. While traveling, you are left without a musical accompaniment. The only sounds you hear are from your immediate surroundings and character. The musical silence is typically broken by boss fights, which feature large orchestral and choral arrangements. Schafer states that because music represents the ultimate intoxication of life, it is carefully placed in a container of silence. When silence precedes sound, nervous anticipation makes it more vibrant. When it interrupts or follows sounds, it reverberates with the tissue of that which sounded, and this state continues as long as the memory holds it. The use of silence in Dark Souls is a deliberate decision that works to immerse players in the world and to create contrast and anticipation between moments of silence and moments of music. By withholding music, FromSoftware is able to utilize music as a distinct sound mark when designing soundscapes. There are two areas in the game which use this strategy. The first one is the main hub of the game, Firelink Shrine. Firelink Shrine is the first area you encounter after the tutorial. It is also the main connection point to access all the other areas in the game. It is a place you constantly return to after long, arduous journeys. It is also one of the only areas that features background music. The music featured here is soft and passive. There are beautiful, sweeping string lines. It is accompanied by the sound of crackling embers from the bonfire. By using music as the sound mark of the shrine, it is separated from the rest of the game's world. It does not have the same harsh silence that exists in the rest of the world. The music signals that this area is different. This area is safe. Just as man requires time for sleep to refresh and renew his life's energies, so too he requires quiet periods to regain mental and spiritual composure. I think this excerpt is interesting when being viewed through this context, as the music of Firelink Shrine is actually giving the player a break from the quiet periods of the game. In a way, the silence has become so commonplace that we need the music to break it up and signal that this area is safe. Another area that features music as a sound mark of its soundscape is Ash Lake. Ash Lake is a secret area which can only be accessed after finding your way through multiple illusory walls and then descending the inside of a giant tree. Many players miss Ash Lake on their first playthrough. It is an area which is truly breathtaking, and I'll never forget the first time I found myself there. When you finally leave the trunk of the hollowed out tree, you find yourself gazing upon a massive lake and thousands of other giant trees. When you gaze upon the lake, the soundtrack is triggered. The use of audio in this area enriches the environment and lore in such a profound way. The chanting gives the area a mystical, primordial feeling. Without using any words, they're able to convey so much about the history and atmosphere of Ash Lake. The religious-esque chanting immediately conveys that this place is ancient, powerful, and sacred. The music functions like a sound mark and makes the area naturally have a higher level of importance placed on it. This directly complements the gameplay as the area is hidden, and finding it feels like a larger reward when the game makes it so striking. A shining achievement of the audio in Dark Souls is its ability to convey information to the player while still maintaining immersion in the world. Collins quotes in Game Sound that the idea that the pleasure of a media experience lies in its ability to centrally transport the participant into an illusory, simulated reality. According to the immersive fallacy, this reality is so complete that ideally the frame falls away so that the player truly believes that he or she is part of an imaginary world. The audio in Dark Souls is carefully designed to increase the player's immersion. This is achieved through the use of carefully engineered adaptive, diegetic, and informational audio which fluidly responds to the player's choices. In Dark Souls, a majority of the auditory experience is interactive and adaptive, which means that the audio is either responding directly to the player's inputs or that it is responding to the consequences of the player's inputs. An example of this is the change in timbre when you are wearing armor of different weights and materials. By changing the audio, the developers are able to communicate the level of protection that your character is wearing while immersing you in the game world and informing you of your defenses. Nina Eidsheim comments on auditory assumptions in Race of Sound by saying, "It is assumed that if I listen carefully to a sound, in the absence of a visually presented or otherwise known source, I should be able to identify a source and that any limitations are due to inexperience or ignorance." This reasoning allows games to convey information to the player through audio. The assumptions that our brain is making informs us what is happening in the game. This kind of informational diegetic audio is commonplace in most games today. Collins writes, "A crucial role of music and sound effects in games is the preparatory function that the audio serves. For instance, to alert the player to an upcoming event, or to forewarn the player of approaching enemies. Enemy footsteps and attack sounds are easy ways of making the audio fit within the game world, while still alerting the player to any potential events which require attention." Collins makes a point to mention acousmatic sounds, and how they are important for giving direction to players. They inspire players to try and find the source of the sound. There are two interesting examples of this which occur in the first hour of the game. The first example is the bell tower ringing in the undead parish. Prior to leaving Firelink Shrine, it is explained to you that your goal is to ring the bells of awakening. When you reach the undead parish, you will hear a bell tower ringing in the distance. A fun fact is that it is actually activated every time a player rings the bell tower in their own game. This decision to make the bell audible throughout the area not only acts as a sound mark for this area, but informs the player that they are approaching their goal. It adds a whole new dimension to both your immersion in the area and the information which is conveyed to you. Another instance of auditory foreshadowing occurs in the same area of the game. When approaching a tower, the clanging of a hammer can be heard. As you move through the tower, the sound grows stronger. You eventually come to realize that this is Andre the blacksmith, who can reinforce your weapons. Andre effectively serves as a sound mark of this area. You know whenever you hear the clanging of metal that you are in a familiar area. The echoing sounds also help to pique your interest and urge the player to find the source of this noise, similar to the acousmatic situation described by Collins. The noise also helps to draw attention to this area, which helps provide players with direction and purpose while moving through the world. One way that the audio is emphasized is through the dialogue. Dark Souls has a notoriously confusing way of storytelling, and one of the main ways to understand what you are supposed to be doing is through talking to the NPCs.
Oh, forgive me. I was absorbed in thought.
This is informational while building the world. Collins remarks that listening to dialogue then becomes a key element in solving the game. Sound and dialogue can likewise reveal details about places or characters, whether they are a friend or foe, for instance, either by their musical accompaniment or by the accent, language, or timbre of their voice.
Then I am in luck. Could you help me? As you can see, I am stuck without recourse. Thank you. Yes, sincerely. I am Knight Lautrec.
Characters like Solaire, Siegmeyer, Laurentius, and many others all offer advice and stories which can help make the game feel like a whole world, while providing information. The music, dialogue, and sound effects help to represent and reinforce a sense of location in terms of cultural, physical, social, or historical environments. My main aspiration with this project was to understand what made Dark Souls so special to me. I've played many other games. I even like other games more than Dark Souls, but there is not a world which I have explored which has the same level of care and intention put into it. Dark Souls has become a cultural phenomenon, as it has inspired so many games that came after it. I hope that through this video, any artist will see that the decisions which go into the audio design must be considered through multiple lenses. The audio must support the game's atmosphere, mythology, gameplay, and environments. When this is all done properly, a lasting piece of art is made.